Hi, this is Virginia Todd with Leading Edge, and I'm here today with.
I am Leo Turco, mortgage broker with Evolve Mortgage.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about condos. And the reason we wanted to talk about condos is because a lot of first-time home buyers, and there are a lot of buyers out there that want to buy, you often will start with a condo just because it's probably the most affordable option, do you think, at this point?
I mean, from a price point perspective, it tends to be.
Yeah.
From a payment perspective, it may not be.
Exactly, because you have to consider the condo fee.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen condo fees as $200 or $1,000.
Depends on what it comes with, right?
Exactly.
You want a pool, a gym, a doorman,
a doggy pool. Yeah, right? I know they're not free for some reason.
No,
yeah.
Not at all.
So we just want to talk a little bit today about the pros and cons. And so condos came kind of in the forefront of the news, especially after we heard the story about the Surfside condo complex, which was down in Miami, Florida. Mm-hmm. Where it was there for 1 minute, and the next minute it just collapsed. It was no longer there. It was part of the sea. So this started a debate, I guess, amongst condo management and owners and investors. You know, maybe we need to pay attention a little bit more on the age of these condos and taking care of these condos. So from your perspective, you said this has always been the case.
Not always been the case, but I think more of a concentrated effort to make sure that properties are structurally have integrity and lasting. So it's always been the case with like single family homes, multifamily homes, where the main goal when an investor finances a client for a mortgage is the property safe.
Yeah.
Right? Like if it has holes in the roof, if it has no plumbing, if it has no electricity, source of heat, like you're not going to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
So I think the piece that was missing with condos was, hey, these buildings are old. Are they safe?
Yeah.
And the collapse in Miami kind of triggered the investors, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, all of them to say, hey, let's make sure these buildings aren't falling down.
And did they add anything to like a questionnaire or anything like that just because of that, because of Miami?
Yeah, so that's the main thing that changed is that the condo questionnaire, which is an intake document during the mortgage process, that's filled out by the property management company or current condo association. There's just a couple new questions on there. And, it just says, is there any known safety issues that impact the structural integrity of the property? That box is checked no, then you're good.
Yeah.
If it's checked yes, then it's going to be nearly impossible to get any type of financing for it.
And then you need to just buy it in cash and go from there. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
But even if you had the cash, you might be like, well, if the building's not safe, do I want to put my cash in here?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what's safe and what's not safe. I mean, if there's a wing wall of a building that's like holding the structure up that needs to be repaired, like that's a major issue. Right? If it's a 100-year-old building and the balconies need to be replaced, well, don't go on the balcony and just get
exactly.
You can still live in the building.
That is true. You can still live in the unit.
Right.
Yeah. So that actually happened to me. I had a client buy a condo and they had balconies, and that's one of the things she liked about it because it's a little bit of outdoor space. Usually with condos, you don't get outdoor space. Mm-hmm. And then she bought the place, and then when she moved in, they suddenly had a special assessment.
Yeah.
And the special assessment, they wanted it paid off in 3 months, and it was a big chunk of change. Yeah, and I did not help her buy that. So the other agent did, and unfortunately, that's one of the things you should ask is when you're buying. And is that one of your questions too as a lender? Are there any special assessments?
Yes, because if there's any special assessments, that means that there's an added expense.
Yeah.
Even if it's for the short term, that we have to take into account as part of your affordability and your overall debt structure. Like, can you afford even everything with the special assessment?
Exactly. And they do special assessments different ways. I've seen them where they just add it to the condo fee. So if the condo fee is $400, they get a loan to fix the special assessment and then divide it by however many years. So now your condo fee may be $600, so $200 extra. Sometimes you can get the seller of the condo to just pay off the assessment. So I typically try to find out how much the assessment is. If it's just a couple $1,000s, well, just, you're offering whatever you're offering, but please pay off the special assessment.
Yes,
so you don't have to think about that. Helps, right?
One of the most common things I've seen is like the seller concession kind of taking care of the concession. Taking care of the assessment.
Yeah.
So that there's not an ongoing monthly payment to the new buyer.
Exactly. But sometimes sometimes the seller's selling because they can't afford the special assessment.
True.
And that happens a lot. Or like an investor, they bought the condo cheap, they were renting it, now they know about a special assessment and they're just dumping it.
Yeah. I mean, the hopes is that, they've built up some equity. There's going to be some proceeds. So part of marketability is to make it attractive for a new buyer.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things.
And sometimes sellers care about that and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
I know another building where, it's a 8-floor building and they suddenly had to have elevators. And there were 2 elevators in the building and each elevator cost $1 million.
Yeah, that's quite expensive.
That's quite expensive. So $2 million divided by however many units, 100 units, not fun. But they gave them a choice. You could pay it off all at once, do a payment plan or a monthly plan. But again, that's not fun. And you don't always know that when you buy it.
Not at all. And I mean, it comes down to whether you're buying a condo, single family home, multi-family home. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to what's my payment going to be?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the rates could be 20%. They could be 2%.
Yep.
The end result in life is still, this is my payment. So where, a standalone home, single or multifamily, has the big variable of taxes, where, your taxes could go up every single year, thus impacting your housing expense.
Yeah.
The condo has that same variable, but then you add on a second one, which is a condo fee. And as maintenance expenses continue to rise, right, whether it become maintenance of the building or the cost that a plowing company takes, or landscaping, or the cost of water, or repairs to the actual structure or anything.
Exactly.
That can impact your total expense if that condo fee continues to move up over time or have a special assessment added.
So when you actually go look at a condo, when I go with my client, I always like to look at the building, look how they maintain the front entrance, the grounds, because so many associations do deferred maintenance because they're like, we can't afford it this year, we can't afford it this year. The people vote it. Well, when you keep deferring it, then it adds up and being more expensive than if they taking care of it at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest tells is the budget of an association or a management company.
Yeah.
The same tell that we have as human beings in our life. Like, how are you budgeting money? Yeah. Are you paying your expenses? Do you have excess? Yeah. Are you saving some of it for future needs? Yeah. And that tends to make a condo project kind of more viable from trying to avoid special assessments, is the fact that if they collect X number of dollars in fee income, right, from condo fees or parking fees, and they put this percentage of it in a savings account for the future, that is the way to mitigate the need for special assessments in the future, because they have a savings account. Exactly. To pay for future maintenance that's been deferred. But every now and then, if you get a project that costs a couple $1 million, there's not enough money there.
You can't plan for it.
No.
And so that's another question. Like whenever I see want to sell a condo or even help a client buy a condo, is find out what the budget is and what's in reserves.
Yeah.
Big word, reserves.
Reserve, yes.
And as a lender, how much in reserves do you want minimum?
So minimum is 10% of active income that's coming in from condo fees.
Okay.
There are ways where a complex can do less than 10%, but they usually need, a specialized type of review of the whole financials of the condo to say, hey, they have enough already saved. They don't need to continue saving 10. Like they can do 7 this year, or they can do 5. Like there's plenty of money.
Now, in the condo questionnaire, do they ask like when's the last time they raised the condo fee? Is that one of the questions or not?
It is not.
That's a question that often my clients will ask, but I don't know if it was in the condo questionnaire or not.
I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's not in there because
Yeah.
there's actually two types of condo questionnaires. And which one is required for lending is determined by underwriting systems of Fannie and Freddie Mac.
Okay.
So this tends to be steered by the client's down payment.
It does. Okay.
Yeah. So one variable is how much is the client putting down.
Yeah.
The second variable is there a record with Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac of this condo project already? Like, is it recent? Is it old? And that'll typically determine what type of condo review is required. So there's two kinds. One is a full review, and the second one is limited. On a limited review, it's literally 4 questions.
Which is nice.
Which is pertinent to safety issues, litigation, concentration of investors versus owners, and owner occupied.
Now, is that still an issue? Because I thought they changed the rules a little bit. So, like, if I have a owner-occupied client that wants to buy into a condo association, do they still care about how many lenders are in the building?
Like how many
like investors are in the building?
They do and they don't.
Okay.
So just to kind of finish up that last piece, right? So 4 questions on the limited review. The full review is like a 3 or 5 page document with lots of questions where then there needs to be a budget analyzed, and many things go into to make sure that the soundness of the condo association's financials can maintain the property for owners. So to get back to your question on investor concentration, so it's not about how many of them are rented versus physically owned and occupied. It's about how many does one investor own.
Oh yeah.
So if it's under a certain number of condo units, it's like they can't own more than 2.
Okay.
If it's over 20 units, typically, if I'm not mistaken, if the whole building has more than 20 units, then they can't own more than a certain percentage. And it's one person or one entity. If it's like, if there's like 10 units in a condo project and 9 of them are rented out,
by the same investor,
and your client wants to buy unit number 10, as long as the same investor doesn't own 2, you're fine.
Then you're okay.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, if I had a buyer that wanted to live there and it was 10 units and 9 of them were rented out, I'd be like, maybe this is not the building for you. Just personally, my perception is if you have that many landlords and investors on it that don't really care as much about living there because they don't live there, so they don't really care if whatever the bug is nasty in the hallway and trash doesn't always get picked up.
That can be probable. Yeah, without a doubt, that can be probable.
Tenants are loud or whatever it is.
I'm a big believer that life is both positive and negative.
Yes.
Right? Because you can't have positive without experiencing negative, and you can't have one without the other, right? Without evil, you wouldn't know what good is. Right?
Exactly.
But I mean, it depends, right? So I think if we're talking about generationally, final living place, right? And you're in the later ages of life and you're looking to downsize, and you're going from a large home where you raised a family to a smaller size condo for maintenance and kind of final living stages, then I think that's more important. Yeah. Right? The point that you brought up. If you're a first-time buyer entering to buy your first property, no matter what you think, my forever, it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It definitely isn't.
What happens is that every 3 to 7 years we change as human beings. Yeah. You might be single at this point. Human nature is to not be alone. Someone else comes into your life, and that condo later becomes something you sell or something you rent out.
Exactly. It's an investment, which is a great
what
thing.
Other people did in that same building.
And also condos have restrictions. I mean, they're great at the beginning because they have rules and you're sharing the expense with everyone. But then, you want to have kids. You want to have a dog. I mean, dogs are very popular.
Yes.
Cats. Cats are easier to get into in a condo than a dog. But even if the condo allows dogs, it's not, personally for me, a big dog needs a yard. Not a condo on the 10th floor with a view, Fido doesn't care about that.
Yeah, totally.
And condos, again, you're sharing the budget. So, like, if heat is included, that's great, because then it's a known cost. You don't have to think about that.
Yep.
Water and sewer is often shared, so you don't have to think about that. And again, using it as investment property when you move on to your next, which is great.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah,
it can be.
Or
If that condo fee doesn't keep growing.
if that condo fee doesn't keep going and the maintenance is
Yeah.
maintained.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, you know, there's nothing wrong with a condo. There's
No.
nothing wrong with a single family home. You know, buying comes down to what people need in life, right?
Exactly.
It's aesthetics. It's goal oriented around location
Yep.
to schools, location to family, locations to jobs, and what does it provide as far as an emotional experience of living there? Like, do you have enough space? Do you have enough bathrooms?
Yeah.
Like, do you have other things? Do you have a parking spot? And that's the same when it comes to a single family home. So when you break it, like when you kind of take it back to the financial impact,
Yeah.
the financial impact is the same. Contribution, I have to spend this much money to get this place,
Yep.
and this is my payment.
Exactly.
So focus in on the things that matter, and
Exactly.
you know, people like you and me will bring a client to their goal.
Exactly. And we're here to ask the hard questions, follow up with management, get the stuff. I mean, one thing I like is to see how responsive management is. If they're there, they're answering the questions, they give you the paperwork that you want. That's a good sign for when you live there that it will be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, if I have a management company I'm dealing with and they don't respond and it's like pulling teeth, or they have ridiculous fees, you know, to obtain all the paperwork. If you live in a condo, you should be able to have access to the budget, the deed,
100%.
and rules and regulations without paying all these fees. But you never know.
The other thing is that, you know, tends to not be talked about a lot is that you can become a vocal leader within that community.
100%.
You can join the association. You can be part of what triggers change and helps manage the future of that building.
I tell that to my buyers all the time, because there could be just one guy, unit 1C is the only one that shows up to all the meetings. Well, guess what? All the decisions are going to be based on his opinion and what he wants. So, you know, I had that with one condo where the one guy was I could tell he's probably the only one that went, and he did not want things to be fixed. He wanted the owners to be responsible for that, even though the condo docs said that it was a condo association. So I just told my client, okay, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to go to that first meeting, and you're going to be vocal and get your neighbors to be vocal that, no, this is a condo association. And he just didn't want to pay to get things fixed.
And then that's why you know, your clients that come to you or clients that have you are very lucky to have an advocate like you.
Thank you. Yes, but I always want people to be happy, not regret what they're buying. Your home is your sanctuary, and I also want it to be a good investment when you sell it and go up to the next.
So let's advise and hedge against remorse.
Exactly.
Let's try to advise against financial worry.
Yes.
And lead happy lives.
So I'm Virginia Todd with Leading Edge.
And I'm Leo Turco with Evolve Mortgage.
And I hope you follow us for more insightful info.
Yes.